If you are between the ages of 30 and 60, and you feel like you are making more money than ever before, but somehow getting poorer, I need you to stop scrolling, put away your distractions, and listen to me right now. There is a silent, aggressive wealth destroyer wiping out high-income earners right in the prime of their lives, and you might be walking straight into it without even realizing it. Let's talk about a terrifying reality in the American financial system today. It is a cycle that traps some of the smartest people in the country. We spend our early 20s learning, we make mistakes, we figure out who we are, and we enter the workforce. Then, we spend our late 20s and our entire 30s trying to earn. We hustle, we grind, and we put in the 80-hour weeks trying to get that promotion, start that business, or build that first real layer of capital. By the time we hit our 40s, many of us achieve exactly what we set out to do. We get the impressive title on our office door. We get the six-figure salary. We look at our monthly paychecks. We see a massive number, and we think to ourselves, I have finally made it. The struggle is over. But in my years of analyzing market behavior, human psychology, and financial life cycles, I have seen a pattern that is far more destructive than any stock market crash, any real estate bubble, or any sudden spike in inflation. I call it the midlife wealth filter. Here is the brutal financial paradox that nobody talks about. Most people assume that a higher salary automatically equals growing wealth. They look at their income, and the numbers are massive. I am talking about incredibly smart, highly capable people, doctors, corporate executives, senior engineers, and successful business owners. These are people sitting comfortably in the top 1% or 5% of earners in this country. Yet, if you look at their actual net worth, which is simply the value of everything they own minus everything they owe, the only real number that can buy true freedom it has completely flatlined. Or worse, it is quietly shrinking in the background. How is this possible? How is it mathematically possible to make $250,000 or even $500,000 a year and still live paycheck to paycheck, secretly terrified of a sudden layoff or an unexpected medical bill? The answer lies in the absolute danger zone of turning 40. When you are 20 years old and you make a catastrophic financial mistake, let's say you dump all your savings into a terrible stock or a business idea that completely flops, it is painful, but it is not fatal. You have the ultimate mathematical lever on your side: time. You can sleep on a cheap mattress in a tiny apartment, live on a tight budget, eat ramen noodles, and hit the reset button. You have decades left to rebuild your foundation. But when you cross into your 40s and 50s, that financial reset button is permanently broken. If you blow up your capital at this stage of your life, you do not just lose dollars. You lose something infinitely more valuable: the precious time required for compound interest to do its heavy lifting. Compound interest is simply the concept of your money making money, and then that new money making even more money. It is a snowball rolling down a hill. Imagine planting an apple tree, watering it every day, and waiting 20 years for it to grow strong. Then, right before it is finally mature enough to bear fruit, you take a chainsaw to the trunk. That is exactly what a major financial mistake at 40 does. You cannot buy back those compounding years. Once the time is gone, it is gone forever. So, why do incredibly smart, high-earning professionals chop down their own trees? It is not because they are uneducated. It is not because they do not know what a basic savings account or an index fund is. It is not because they missed out on the latest market rally. The collapse happens because of three invisible psychological cracks in their foundation. These three cracks are lethal because they do not look like mistakes. They disguise themselves as success. They look like ambition. They look like a well-deserved lifestyle upgrade. But in reality, they are structural flaws, silently eating away at your past hard work, ensuring you have to keep working until the day you die. Let's expose these three psychological traps right now, so you can stop them before it is too late. This brings us directly to habit number 1. It is, without a doubt, the most seductive and silent killer of wealth in the modern world. It is the exact reason why a highly educated professional earning $300,000 a year can still wake up in a cold sweat, drowning in credit card debt. I call it the lifestyle creep of the ego, or the slavery of the outer scorecard. When you cross that threshold into your late 30s and 40s, society places an invisible, yet crushing, expectation on your shoulders. You are no longer the junior associate. You are a senior manager. You are a partner at the law firm. You are a successful business owner or an attending physician. The world looks at you, and the advertising industry whispers in your ear, "You have made it. You work so hard. You are exhausted. You deserve to look the part. Treat yourself." And so the creep begins. Think back to your 20s. You were probably perfectly happy driving a reliable, used Toyota or Honda. It got you from point A to point B. It was an asset of pure utility. It did its job, it didn't break down, and it was cheap to fix. But at 40, suddenly that perfectly good car doesn't feel right for your new status. You pull into the company parking lot and look at your colleague Bob. Bob just bought the brand new Mercedes S-Class. Bob is taking his family on luxury vacations to the Maldives, posting photos from first-class lounges instead of driving to the local beach. Bob wears a Swiss watch that costs more than your first year's salary out of college. Suddenly, your practical, reliable car feels like a symbol of failure. Your house, which was perfectly fine and comfortable yesterday, suddenly feels too cramped, too outdated, too cheap for someone of your professional standing. So, what do? You upgrade. You buy the $80,000 luxury SUV. You move into the sprawling house in the prestigious zip code with the extra guest bedrooms you will absolutely never use. But those extra bedrooms come with double the property taxes, double the insurance, double the maintenance costs, and double the heating bill. You join the exclusive country club just to network with people who are also pretending to be richer than they are. You justify it all by looking at your high salary and telling yourself the most dangerous lie in personal finance. It's fine. I can afford the monthly payments. And technically, you are right. You can make the payments. The money is in your checking account on the first of the month. But by focusing only on the monthly installment, you have missed the entire point of wealth building. Wealth is not about what you can afford to finance on a monthly basis. Wealth is about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is a very simple financial concept for beginners to understand. It is the cost of what you miss out on when you choose to spend your money on one thing instead of another. It is the ghost of what your money could have become if you hadn't spent it to impress people you don't even really like. Let me break down the math for you. And I warn you, it is painful. Let's say you go ahead and buy that luxury vehicle for $80,000. You drive it off the lot, you smell the fresh leather, and you think the cost of that car is $80,000. You are dead wrong. Let's imagine an alternate reality. What if you had taken that same $80,000, swallowed your pride, kept driving your old car, and invested that money into a basic, boring S&P 500 index fund? For those who are new to investing, an S&P 500 index fund is simply a single investment that buys you a tiny slice of the 500 most successful, profitable companies in America. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. Let's say that investment compounds at an average historical return of about 10% a year. You don't trade it. You don't touch it. You just let it sit there, quietly working for you in the background for the next 20 years until you are ready to retire at 60. Do you know how much that initial $80,000 would be worth? Thanks to the magic of compound interest, it would grow to nearly $540,000. Read that number again. Let it sink in. That luxury car did not cost you $80,000. It cost you $500,000 of your future security. It cost you roughly 5 years of complete financial freedom. You have to look in the mirror and ask yourself a very uncomfortable question. Is the heated leather seat, the new car smell, and the shiny logo on the steering wheel really worth 5 extra years of your life sitting in a cubicle, answering emails from a demanding boss when you could have been free? This is the ultimate trap of the middle-aged earner. At 40, you have prime access to credit. The banks absolutely love you. Your income is high. Your credit score is great, and they will gladly lend you the rope to hang yourself with. You feel safe because the cash flow is there today, but you are systematically building a life of incredibly high overhead. You become a prisoner to your own lifestyle. You cannot quit the job you hate because you have to feed the monster you created. This habit is insidious because it is driven entirely by the ego. It is driven by what legendary investor Warren Buffett calls the outer scorecard. The outer scorecard is when you measure your value, your success, and your self-worth entirely by what other people think of you. Do they think I'm rich? Do they admire my house? Are they jealous of my vacations? Listen to me very carefully. If your self-worth depends on your net worth being highly visible to the public, you will never, ever be truly wealthy, because visible wealth is spent wealth. When you see someone driving a $100,000 car, the only absolute financial truth you know about them is that they now have $100,000 less in their bank account than they used to. Or worse, they have $100,000 more in debt. At 40, you are forced to make a brutal, definitive choice. Do you want to look rich or do you want to be rich? The laws of mathematics dictate that you cannot do both. The truly wealthy people, the ones who build generational freedom and sleep soundly through recessions without a drop of sweat, are underaccumulators of stuff and overaccumulators of income-producing assets. They wage a daily war against what I call asset termites. Asset termites are the small, recurring lifestyle upgrades that quietly eat away at the foundation of your wealth. It's not just the massive mortgage. It is the 5 different streaming subscriptions you barely use. It is paying for first-class seat upgrades on a 2-hour flight. It is buying the $150 bottle of wine for a dinner party just to prove to your neighbors that you have a refined palate. Individually, these purchases seem tiny, but collectively, strung together over a decade or two, they eat the magic of compound interest alive. If you are in your 40s, I challenge you to pull up your credit card statement this month. Look at every single line item. How many of those expenses are genuinely for your own happiness, and how many are just a performance for an audience? How much capital are you setting on fire every 30 days just to maintain an illusion of success? If you can kill the ego, if you can transition back to an inner scorecard where a car is just a machine that safely transports you, and a house is just a warm shelter for the people you love, you instantly stop the bleeding. You reclaim your capital. You gather your financial soldiers to go out and capture real territory for your future freedom. But if you cannot conquer this need for applause, no amount of income will ever save you. You will be running on a golden treadmill until the day you die. Now, let's assume you are highly disciplined. You have conquered your ego. You are living well below your means, ignoring what the neighbors think, and you have actually saved a good chunk of capital. You might think you are safe, but this exact scenario leads us straight into the second and arguably more explosive wealth-destroying trap. If the first habit is about bleeding your wealth slowly through lifestyle upgrades, this second habit is about blowing up your financial life instantly. We have arrived at the second fatal crack in the foundation, the desperation reach. There is a very specific type of financial panic that strikes men and women in their 40s. It is a quiet, terrifying realization. Let's say you have been responsible. You have paid your bills on time. You finally sit down on a Sunday morning, log into your retirement account, and maybe you see a balance of $200,000 or $500,000 to a 25-year-old kid, fresh out of college. $500,000 looks like an absolute, untouchable fortune. But to you, at 45 years old, looking at the harsh reality that retirement is only 15 or 20 years away, that number suddenly looks terrifyingly small. You do the mental math at the kitchen table. You realize if I just keep saving at this normal, steady rate, I am going to be okay. I will be comfortable. I can pay for groceries and keep the lights on, but I won't be rich. I won't have the ultimate freedom I dreamed of. And right there, a dangerous psychological switch flips in your brain. You feel like you are behind schedule. You look around, you open your phone, and you see some 20-something on the internet who became a multimillionaire overnight by trading crypto or starting an app, and you feel like you are losing the race. When a human being feels like they are running out of time, they stop acting rationally, they stop investing, and they start gambling. In the financial world, professionals call this reaching for yield. But let's drop the jargon and call it what it really is: a desperate attempt to hit a home run to make up for lost time. Suddenly, you are no longer satisfied with a safe, boring, highly predictable 8% or 10% average return from a diversified index fund. That is simply too slow for your new panic timeline. You feel like you need a 50% return. You need a 100% return. You are actively searching for a magic bullet to double your net worth in 2 years. So, what do? You abandon the boring discipline that got you your first $500,000. You step completely outside your circle of knowledge. You start day trading options. For beginners, buying options is essentially placing a highly leveraged bet, guessing exactly which direction a stock will move by a specific Friday. It is not investing. It is predicting the short-term future, which is impossible. You take 30% of your hard-earned life savings and dump it into a highly speculative cryptocurrency or a penny stock, just because your neighbor, a coworker, or a guy on YouTube confidently said it was going to the moon. Or worst of all, you discover the ultimate weapon of financial mass destruction: leverage. Leverage simply means borrowing money to amplify your investments. It is like driving a car at 150 miles per hour. Yes, you will get to your destination faster if the road is perfectly straight. But if you hit even a tiny pebble, the car flips and you are completely destroyed. You borrow against your house to buy a speculative business. You trade on margin. Let me share a fundamental law of wealth that the greatest investors alive live by. It is absolute insanity to risk what you have and need in order to get what you do not have and do not need. Think about how incredibly crazy this is. You are 45 years old. You have a beautiful family, a solid job, and a paid-off mortgage. You have security, yet you are willing to risk your family's actual, real-world security, the money you need to feed them, pay for their health care, and send your kids to college to place a wild bet on a risky asset just so you can buy a vacation home you don't even need, or just to prove you are a financial genius. You are playing financial Russian roulette. You might spin the cylinder, pull the trigger 3 times, and win. You might double your money. But if you keep playing out of desperation, eventually you will find the bullet. And at 40, finding the bullet is fatal. It is a death spiral you cannot recover from because you do not have another 30 years to save up another $500,000. This brings us to a very specific sub-trap of this desperation, one that specifically targets high-income professionals. I call it the illusion of competence. This is the deadly trap waiting in the shadows for the doctors, the corporate lawyers, the senior software engineers, and the successful business owners. You are incredibly smart. You spent 20 years mastering complex brain surgeries, intricate corporate law, or massive coding architectures. Because you have a genius-level IQ in your specific profession, your ego tricks you into believing that you have a genius-level IQ in every other area of life, especially the stock market. You tell yourself, I am a brilliant neurosurgeon. I literally operate on the human brain and save lives. Surely I can outsmart the stock market and pick winning tech stocks better than the average guy. No, you cannot. The stock market does not care about your medical degree. The market does not care that you graduated at the top of your class at Harvard Law. The financial market is a brutal, emotionless machine designed to transfer wealth from the arrogant to the patient. When you step outside your specific professional expertise and try to outtrade the market, you are not the shark, you are the prey. Imagine sitting down at a high-stakes poker table in Las Vegas. The people sitting across from you are institutional investors, hedge fund managers, and supercomputers that process information and play this game 14 hours a day, every single day of their lives. If you look around that poker table and you cannot spot the sucker is you. When you hit your 40s, your entire financial philosophy must undergo a radical shift. You must change your goal from get rich quick to get rich sure. Get rich sure is not sexy. You cannot brag about it at a cocktail party. It is incredibly boring. It means buying high-quality, profitable businesses or broad index funds, holding them, and doing absolutely nothing. It means accepting that true wealth is built slowly, day by day, month by month. It means resisting the desperate urge to swing a baseball bat at every single pitch the market throws at you. If you wake up feeling anxiety about the size of your retirement account, the solution is never, ever to increase your risk. Do not try to solve a savings problem with an investment gamble. The solution is to increase your savings rate by cutting the ego-driven expenses we talked about in trap number 1, or by increasing your earning power. If you can avoid the desperation reach, you eliminate the only thing that can truly destroy you, complete financial ruin. But even if you avoid the shiny cars, and even if you avoid the gambling trap, there is still one final habit left. It is a quiet disease of the mind, and it destroys your actual engine of wealth. This brings us to the third and final crack in your financial foundation. If the first habit bleeds your savings dry, and the second habit blows up your investment capital, this third habit is much more insidious. It destroys your ability to generate wealth in the first place. I call it intellectual complacency, or quite simply, the fatal decision to put your brain on cruise control. There is a tragic phenomenon that happens to highly capable, successful people when they hit their 40s. Think about your career path. You spend your 20s and 30s acting like a sponge. You are hungry. You read the books, you take the extra weekend courses, you learn the new software programs, you network, and you study the market. Because of that relentless hustle, you reach a high level of competence. You become the senior director, the head engineer, the lead physician, or the experienced manager. And then something very dangerous happens. You take a deep breath, lean back in your comfortable office chair, and say to yourself, I have paid my dues. I know how my industry works inside and out. School is finally over. You stop reading. You stop asking why. You come home from work exhausted. You sit on the couch. You turn on the TV or scroll endlessly through social media, and you numb your mind. You start relying entirely on the knowledge, the habits, and the mental models that you built 15 or 20 years ago. Let me be brutally honest with you. The exact moment you think school is over, your financial decline begins. If we were living in 1985, you could probably get away with this. Back then, the world moved slowly. If you learned a specialized skill at age 25, that exact same skill could easily carry you all the way to a comfortable, secure retirement at age 65. But look at the calendar. Look at the world around you. We are living in a world that is moving at the speed of light. Artificial intelligence, advanced automation, robotics, and massive global economic shifts are completely rewriting the rules of the game every single morning. If you are 45 years old today, and you are trying to navigate your career and your finances using the same knowledge base you had when you were 30, you are not stable. You are obsolete. You just don't realize it yet. Why is this a wealth killer? Because for most people, your single greatest financial asset is not your house, and it is not your stock portfolio. Your greatest asset is your human capital, your physical and mental ability to earn a high income over time. Think of your earning power as a golden goose that lays golden eggs every single month. If you refuse to learn new skills, your golden goose gets sick. Your skills become outdated, your value to the marketplace drops, you get passed over for promotions, and eventually your high income dries up or gets replaced by someone younger and cheaper or by a line of code. And when your cash flow dries up at age 50, you are forced to do the one thing that ruins retirements. You have to start eating your savings just to survive. This intellectual laziness also completely destroys your investment strategy. If your mind is stuck in the past, your portfolio will be stuck in the past. In the investing world, there is a dangerous trap that catches older investors all the time. It is called a value trap. Let me explain it simply for beginners. Because you haven't updated your understanding of the modern digital world, you might look at a famous old retail company, maybe a department store you used to shop at as a kid whose stock price has plummeted. You look at it and think, wow, this stock is so cheap. It used to be $100 a share, and now it is only $15. What an incredible bargain. But it is not a bargain. It is a trap. The stock isn't cheap because the market is making a mistake. It is cheap because the company's entire business model is dying. People don't shop there anymore. They buy online. You are buying a dinosaur right as the asteroid is hitting the atmosphere. Because you stop studying how consumer habits are changing, you end up throwing your hard-earned money into garbage companies just because the price tag looked low. A rigid, stubborn mind is the most expensive liability you can own. As we age, we love to say things like, well, back in my day, we did it this way. The stock market does not care about your day. The global economy does not care about how things used to be. The market only rewards what is happening today and what will happen tomorrow. So, how do we fix this? You must force a radical software update on your own brain. You must start allocating capital to your mind. And by capital, I do not necessarily mean money, I mean your time and your deep attention. You must fight the daily urge to zone out on the couch. Force yourself to read articles and books that you disagree with. Study industries that have absolutely nothing to do with your current job. You do not need to become a master computer coder, and you do not need to be an AI engineer. But you absolutely must understand how the pieces on the economic chessboard are moving. You need the humility to look in the mirror and say, I don't know how this new technology works, but I have the curiosity to find out. If you are 40 years old, statistically, you have another 40 years of life ahead of you. That is a second entire lifetime. Do you really want to navigate that second lifetime using a map that is 20 years out of date? You have to keep learning. Now, if you can kill the ego that buys the luxury car, if you can kill the desperation that gambles your savings on crypto, and if you can kill the complacency that stops you from learning, you are finally ready for the ultimate solution. Are you ready to build a financial fortress that cannot be broken? Let's move to the final protocol. We have clearly identified the 3 silent killers of middle-aged wealth: the ego that spends to impress others, the desperation that gambles to catch up, and the complacency that ignores the future. Now, I want to give you the exact, actionable antidote. If you are over 40, your ultimate financial goal is no longer just rapid growth. Your goal is invincibility. You need to build a financial life that can survive a massive market crash, a sudden job loss, a divorce, or a health crisis. Because at this stage in life, these are not just hypothetical risks you read about in textbooks, they are statistical probabilities. I call this the Fortress Protocol, and it consists of 2 incredibly simple yet highly disciplined actions. Action number 1, you must define your enough. The absolute main reason smart, high-earning people fall into the terrifying trap of lifestyle creep is that they simply have no finish line. If you do not know what enough looks like, you will be running on a financial treadmill forever, exhausted and unfulfilled. The man making $100,000 thinks he needs $200,000 to be happy. The man making $500,000 thinks he needs a multi-million-dollar estate. The millionaire thinks he needs a private jet. It never ends. The goalpost keeps moving. I want you to sit down this weekend, take out a piece of paper, and actually calculate your number. I am not talking about a fantasy number to buy a private island in the Caribbean. I am talking about your sleep well at night number. How do you find this? Keep it simple. Calculate your ideal, joyful annual living expenses, the money you need for a comfortable home, good food, travel, and taking care of your family. Now, multiply that annual number by 25. This is a basic rule of thumb in finance known as the 4% rule. If you can save and invest that total amount, you can theoretically withdraw 4% every year for the rest of your life without ever running out of money. Once you lock in that specific mathematical number, a massive weight lifts off your chest. You suddenly realize that buying a bigger boat or a flashier car doesn't get you closer to the finish line, it actually pushes your finish line years further away. Defining enough is how you permanently exit the miserable, unwinnable game of comparing yourself to your neighbors. Action number 2, embrace the power of subtraction. As we get older and more successful, our lives naturally become overly complex. We open 5 different brokerage accounts, We invest in obscure assets we don't truly understand. We pay for a dozen different monthly subscriptions. We buy rental properties we don't have time to manage. And we collect financial obligations like souvenirs. Listen closely. Complexity is the ultimate enemy of execution. If you want to build a true financial fortress, you have to ruthlessly simplify your life. Look at your bank statements and cut every single expense that does not bring you genuine joy or security. Look at your investment portfolio and sell the random, confusing investments you bought just because someone at a dinner party mentioned them. Go back to the absolute basics. The most successful investment strategy in the world is incredibly boring. Live below your means. Buy high-quality assets like broad index funds. Automatically invest every single month regardless of what the news says, and then just sit on your hands. You do not need to check the stock price every single day. If you remove the complexity, you gain the ultimate luxury in investing: patience. Finally, I want to leave you with a crucial, inspiring word on time. Many of you watching this are sitting there at 45, 50, or 55 years old, and you have this sinking feeling in your stomach. You feel like you missed the boat. You feel like because you didn't invest perfectly in your 20s, it is simply too late to build massive wealth. I need you to erase that lie from your mind right now. Let me share a statistical fact about the greatest investor in human history, Warren Buffett. Today, his net worth is over $130 billion. But do you know when he made the vast majority of that money? Warren Buffett generated 99% of his entire net worth after his 50th birthday. Read that again. Let it sink in to your bones. 99% of his monumental wealth came after age 50. Why? Because compound interest is heavily backloaded. The absolute magic of wealth creation happens at the very end of the timeline, not the beginning. As the snowball gets bigger, it gathers snow at a much faster rate. If Buffett had panicked at 45 because he wasn't a billionaire yet, and he gambled it all away on a desperate stock tip, you would not even know his name today. Your first 40 years on this earth are just the warm-up. They are the practice rounds. Those are the years where you are supposed to make mistakes, get a little bruised, learn hard lessons, and build your character. But right now, you are entering the second half of the game. You finally have the wisdom. You have the professional scars. And if you follow this protocol, you will have the capital to do incredible things. Do not let the foolish habits of the ego destroy what should be the most prosperous, peaceful, and abundant decades of your entire life. Let's recap the blueprint so you never forget it. 1. Kill the creep. Stop upgrading your lifestyle just to impress an audience that doesn't actually care about you. 2. Stop the gamble. Resist the desperate urge to get rich quick. Recognize your circle of competence and embrace getting rich. Sure. 3. Feed your mind. Never stop learning, adapting, and reading because your updated skills are your greatest cash-flowing asset. If this message hit home for you today, I want you to do 2 things right now. First, go down to the comments section and tell me, what is your enough number? Don't be shy. Writing it down and putting it out there is the very first step to making it a reality. And second, if you are serious about building your financial fortress, protecting your family, and mastering the true psychology of wealth, hit that subscribe button. We are building a powerful community of people who want to be rich, not just look rich. Stay disciplined, keep compounding, ignore the noise, and I will see you at the finish line.